Make sure your truck's locked, the trailer's locked. And be aware of your surroundings. If you are parked in a location that you're not sure about and it doesn't feel right, then move. You may be in violation of the hours of service rules, but you can always explain it if you're still with us.
We've been seeing a coverage of an increasing number of cargo thefts, specifically in the Philadelphia area. And I'm wondering if we can start by kind of defining how bad is the problem there right now?
Well, the last two that I saw were, especially the last one, was pretty disturbing. I guess the company decided to put an alarm on the trailer when when the door was opened or something of that nature, and the driver decided to investigate himself, which is not a good move. And when he got out of the truck, he was beaten up pretty badly. There were 12 individuals in several vehicles there pilfering the crab legs out of the back of his trailer. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it used to happen. It's happened over the years. Truckers would be stopped at traffic lights and they'd lose half a dozen turkeys out the back, that kind of thing. That's to be expected in a metropolitan area such as Philadelphia. Not to pick on them, but I grew up there, so I know the territory. I think it's happening all over. Number one, the economy. People are having a hard time making ends meet, and some people go the wrong way when they try to make it better for themselves. But then the crooks have a better time of it too, because they can get rid of the stuff pretty quickly. There for a while, energy drinks were really hot because they steal a truckload and then stop at the little mom and pop convenience stores, and those people buy it from them. Maybe they knew it's stolen, maybe not, who knows, but it's easy to turn over because there's no tracing it.
Hmm. But I mean, you mentioned that occasional theft is someone just grabbing a few turkeys off the back of the truck. It
Right.
seems to me like this is much more organized and maybe more frequent.
No doubt about it. The more organized for sure. They said there were at least a half a dozen vehicles there unloading that truck that with the crab legs. The one prior to that was not so organized. The truck was traveling down the street and they were throwing uh packages of pork out the back. So that was just a thing of opportunity. The driver didn't have the trailer locked, so shame on him, I guess. But they have universal locks, the big cutters anyway, so the lock will slow them down a little bit. But I don't know. The area where the driver was parked was a lit Walmart parking lot with plenty of cameras around, which may help solve it. But it's just I don't think it'll slow down any until a lot of things change.
Is this something that you're seeing mainly in the Philadelphia area right now? Or you mentioned in any urban environment, obviously you also have Pittsburgh there in
Right.
Pennsylvania. Is it more widespread across there or even in rural areas?
Well, it's across the country. I attended a meeting and there was a cargo theft task force gentleman out of California, and they're really having a hard time out there. They have a lot of rail theft. And it's something you don't hear too much in this area. But out there, they seem to get the containerized cargo pretty quickly. I don't know. Some of them feel that most of the rail theft is the result of inside information that's been passed on, because I don't know how you'd know what's in a rail car. Uh, Trucks are easy. You take a look at the truck, the type of trailer. If it's a refrigerated trailer, there's something perishable, which is probably valuable. Although, you know, a regular dry van can hold, good stuff like electronics and things that are not perishable, but are easy to get rid of.
I'm wondering if you can give us some advice here, in talking maybe a little bit about prevention. And one of them is, you mentioned foodstuffs, you mentioned a refrigerated trailer. I'm wondering what sorts of things the cargo thieves are looking for when they're selecting a truck to rob. Is this strictly a crime of opportunity? Are they looking particularly, for example, for reefers? Um, are they looking for something that might indicate a load of electronics? I mean, what are they looking for when they're kind of selecting their target?
Well, with the refrigerated trailers, you already know there's something perishable, probably meats. Uh, I know the trailers that came out of the facilities where I worked, it was a mixture of things. So with a refrigerated trailer, again, like I said, it's probably something that can't be traced because chicken legs and turkeys and crab legs don't have serial numbers on them. So as long as you get them out of the package and move them on, you're going to be going pretty quickly. Um, I think the thing that to for deterrence, a lot of the trailers have the active GPS on them. Some of the larger electronic companies are putting the GPS trackers right in the packages themselves. As a matter of fact, I know that I read a story on the one trailer. They stole the truck and trailer and they tracked it right to where they were unloading it at a facility. So they were able to track it with using the GPS both in the packaging and the trailer itself. So maybe a little bit of signage on the trailer, load tracked by GPS. I don't know. Um, but the big thing is the drivers need to know their surroundings. They have to be aware of their surroundings. And that's one of the things with the truck parking issue is try to get more safe and secure parking areas for the drivers. Although you can argue that the Walmart lot was, but we lost a driver that was a part of our national truck driving championship team a little over a year ago. He had parked behind a facility where he was going to be unloading the next day, and he was actually robbed and killed. So knowing your surroundings is really important. The driver that got out with the crab legs, first thing he should have done is dialed 911 and stayed in the truck because no load is worth your life, that's for sure. And we have some ways, I'm sure you've seen some of the ways drivers secure their cabs so that people can't get inside using seatbelts and other kind of locking mechanisms. And that's the safest place for them to be. They're not bulletproof, but at least they can't get to you physically. And then you can dial 911, call and get some police presence there pretty quickly.
Is there anything else that they could do in terms of the truck itself? I mean, you mentioned GPS tags on, say, the freight, but that's really something the shipper would need to do. Um, Outside of just locking the trailer, is there anything else the trucker can do? I've heard, for example, of people saying to, if you're at a truck stop, try and park back to back with another truck. I mean,
Sure.
are there things like that?
That would definitely be a plus if there's a wall that you can back up against to tight so that they can't get to the door. That's another good way to keep them out of the trailer for sure. And if you do that, for sure, you don't want to get out of the truck. You want to make sure you stay in there. And because if they're still going to try to get after your trailer, when you take all those precautions, then they're serious about it.
Yeah. Um, we typically think of this type of thing happening with trucks in non-secure areas, and you mentioned uh, the the truck that was at the Walmart
Right.
parking lot, where there's cameras, where there's lights, where there's obviously an occupied facility.
Sure.
I mean, what are truckers' options in a case like that when normally secure locations are being hit like that? I mean, is it best to stay in places like a truck stop, or is even that not a good spot?
Well, I know that the robberies happen in the truck stops as well. They don't get it reported as frequently, but yeah, because obviously the truck stops don't want the bad press. I know even when the drivers are fueling their trucks, they have to be careful of who's around. I had a driver at my one company that was robbed while he was fueling his truck. So, it can happen anywhere. The thing that emboldens these crooks is the lack of prosecution. And without getting into political stuff, if you're not going to prosecute the simple crimes, then it's just a kind of a snowball effect. They feel like, it's just property. They're not going to go after me.
Mm.
It makes it difficult.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah, and certainly I've heard that type of thing when it comes to property crimes in other places in the country.
Sure. And it's hard for the police too, because they want to do the job. They don't want to see people get hurt or lose their property. At the end of the day, though, it is just property, so not worth your life.
Yeah. You mentioned law enforcement. Has your organization had discussions with law enforcement on the state or local level, and what sort of topics related to this have you discussed with them?
Well, I'm part of the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance. It's a group association that has industry regulators, PennDOT's there, Pennsylvania State Police, and we talk about it a lot. And a lot has to do with the lack of secure areas for truckers to park. And PennDOT did another study, but this study that they just finished actually pinpoints areas that are prime and good for more truck parking. And it's a double effect here. Not only will it be more secure for the drivers, but it will also cut down on the amount of time that they have to search for a secure place to park, because there's one spot for every 11 truckers now. And it makes it difficult. They have to stop earlier and they lose production. And then sometimes they can't go any further, and there is no safe place to go other than maybe the shoulder of the road, which is really not the best place. But so that's what has been our focus with state police and PennDOT, is working with this parking issue.
Well, John, that's all I had. Is there anything else on this topic that truckers should be aware of or that you want to add?
Just the most important thing: make sure your truck's locked, the trailer's locked, and be aware of your surroundings. If you are parked in a location that you're not sure about and it doesn't feel right, then move. You may be in violation of the hours of service rules, but you can always explain it if you're still with us.
There you go. John, thank you very much for your time. I sure appreciate it.
Not a problem. I hope it was helpful for you.